Alright everyone, welcome back to some more of the house in Fata Morgana. Thank you all for the love and support you give this series, I always appreciate it. Currently right now we are in the midst of Michelle's story, her main story now, and the whole truth about it all. We're gonna learn the history and how everything began for her. That leads up to the present, I guess, you know? So with that said guys, hope you all continue to enjoy watching, and let's get to it. Alright guys, and we are back. And they prepared an extravagant feast for the occasion. My father Antonin looked so proud of his two boys, Didier soon to receive his assignment and Georgia soon to be wed. The banquet proceeded smoothly. Not a doubt in the air that we were a happy family, but my mind was elsewhere. I found myself unconsciously chasing Amy with my eyes, watching the way those slender fingers gripped her spoon, her full lips parting to allow a piece of fruit in, her deep red tongue visible for but the briefest of moments. The way all the muscles in her face seemed to relax in bliss as the sweet juices seeped into her mouth. The way she spoke, so soft and gentle, letting each sound hang in the air just briefly before intoning the next. She was distinctly feminine, in a different way than my mother. Apparently, Amy was going to be living at the Bollinger estate for some time. Mother was pleased to have another girl around. Or, more specifically, she was relieved to have found someone other than my brothers for me to spend time with. I'd assumed I would hate being around another girl. Surely she wouldn't be able to play chess after all. But for some reason, I felt much less suffocated around her than my mother. One night, Amy's family and an array of nobles from both houses' social circles assembled at the estate for a party. A din the likes of which I had never heard in my life filled the great hall. Everywhere I looked, there were people. Servants scrambled every which way, silverware clanged against dishes in an almost constant hum. Voices from all directions. I felt moderately ill. Hey D, I feel like we are critically short on waiters. This don't look good for us. And who was it who went about inviting everyone he came across again? Who are those people? They're artists. They're artists like me. I met them at the court. Let's see, we have some painters, composers, sculptors, troubadours, poets, writers, you name it. None of them have any connection to the Joberts or the Bollingers. Sure they do. They're my friends. And you know, this is me and Amy's party. You can play with your friends elsewhere. I hope you realize we have a reputation to uphold. Off in one corner, several men, presumably George's friends, gathered in a circle. They stood out from one another, aristocrats, both in appearance and the air they gave off. The clothes they wore, the embroidery hidden beneath their jacket cuffs, their manner of speech, the way they held themselves. They were simply put a far cry from the hard-headed Didier's ideal party guests. Even watching them from afar, it was clear my two brothers ran in very different crowds. The only reason headstrong Didier and free-spirited Georges were able to get along at all was because they were brothers. If they had been strangers, I doubt their paths would cross much, and if they did, those intersections would be quite rocky. Hey, come here guys! George's shouting voice pulled my preoccupied mind back to the surface. He summoned his friends, then led them to where I stood. What are you doing hiding in the corner, Michelle? I didn't even notice you. Allow me to introduce you to a few of my friends. No, Georges put his hands on my shoulders, peeling me off the wall and standing me in front of his male friends. Socialization was the last thing on my mind. I searched for Didier, hoping he would come to my rescue, but he was off trading pleasantries facing away from me. This is my baby sister, Michelle. Be nice. Georges, I don't... Gracious, your skin is even more pale than I imagined. It's like something out of a fairy tale. And why have you never brought her with you in the court? She'd be a sure hit. And how old are you now? 12, mayhap? Now, don't treat the lady like a child. I'll have you know she's 14. All the more reason she should be out there making friends. The whole court would flip if they knew you had such a gorgeous sister, Georges. Don't be a brute, my man. Our little angel has to be kept inside for personal reasons. Uh-oh, sounds like I haven't been showing the lady her due respect. I've yet to even properly introduce myself. How rude indeed. The last grated on my nerves. and so did the way Georgia spoke as though I was his property. They looked like they were appraising me, which made me sick to my stomach. I've been paying enough attention to notice the man who had asked if I was 12, and the rest of them too, examining me from head to toe in search of curves. I was indeed underdeveloped for 14. But what did that matter? I didn't want a body shaped like Amy's or my mother's. Now then, milady, a proper greeting? The man got down on one knee before me. For a split second, I didn't comprehend what he was doing. Go on, Michelle. He's waiting. He whispered into my ear. That was when it all came back to me, the traditional greeting performed between a man and a woman. Come on, Michelle. Don't tell me you forgot what to do. I knew. I knew the process. I had that knowledge. Mother had taught me the rules, shown me the procedure. I was to present my hand to the man for him to kiss. All I had to do was hold out my hand, but I was frozen. My body fought tooth and nail against the simple act. The thought of that man putting his lips on my skin sent a chill through me. Why? Why was this a traditional greeting? Why did I have to go through this? Michelle! But at the sound of George's frantic voice, my arm creaked up from my side. Then I remembered that despite being his friends, they were still nobility. As wanton as his social interactions may have been, he still had a reputation to maintain. And I understood that. I also understood that as their sister, it was my responsibility not to do anything that might tarnish either of my brothers' names. Also, by tradition, the man wasn't supposed to actually kiss the woman's hand. The proper way to do it required he simply mimic the act rather than make real contact. That much I could handle. The man kneeling before me gave an uncomfortable chuckle at my reluctance, shrugged, and reverently took my hand in his. And then he pressed his lips firmly against my skin. There was a vaguely warm sensation on the back of my hand for the briefest moment. What do you... Reflexively, I smacked the man's hand away. George's eyes went wide in horror, and the man gave another playful shrug. I was merely offering you a greeting, milady. Or is even that a new experience to you? Your innocence is truly precious. I was half a second away from throwing a barrage of insults, but I bit my tongue and stomped off instead. What? Oh, missed up on that. Hold on. Let's go back. Michelle! Hey, come back, Michelle! I'd spent all that time convincing myself I couldn't humiliate my brothers, but now I wouldn't hear a word of it. I'd drawn a fair bit of attention, and other people tried to stop me too, but I brushed them all off, marching my way out of the great hall. I feel so dirty. You called that a greeting? No, that was no greeting. That was... I'll be taking that. I say, practically swiping a glass of water off a passing waiter's tray. With it, I washed my hand by the window facing the courtyard, but no matter how much water I poured over it, I couldn't erase the sickening sensation of his mouth on my hand. So I rubbed it with my sleeve until my skin was bright red. I wanted to feel something else, anything else, even pain. Think before you act, Georges. What were you doing inviting people like that into our home? I was angry, and had every right to be. He had not performed the proper greeting. Even in jest, he had no business actually putting his lips on my hand. It was not acceptable behavior for an aristocrat. He was a guest. He should have been ashamed. Was I angry that he had been disrespectful? No, that wasn't the reason. It was... That wasn't very nice of you running off like that. At the sound of his voice, I couldn't turn back. I felt a sickening warmth almost directly against my back. The man from the great hall grabbed me by the wrist, spun me around, and pressed me against the wall. The bitter scent of wine wafted from above. What the hell are you doing? I tried a second time to get away from him, and that was when reality sunk in. I couldn't do it. All the strength I could muster wasn't enough to make the man's hand budge. My arms were locked in place. I didn't think he was especially strong either. He was hardly built like the deer, and still I couldn't move an inch. You got a tongue like a boy, milady, but I know some people are fond of that these days. Can't say I mind them myself. Let go. Had I always been this feeble? Were my arms truly so worthless I couldn't even escape the brute's grip? Why did I have to get stuck with this body? Now just so we're clear, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm no monster, I promise you that. Then why are you holding me against the wall? Because I want a chance to try and woo you. I apologize if I made you uncomfortable back there, but the second I laid eyes on you, I knew you were a keeper. Then let go of me. But if I do that, you'll run away. And it's my personal rule to never let go of anything I like. Your brother says you can't go outside, so if I set you loose now, I might never get a chance to catch you again. I wanted to vomit. Apparently, taking my sounds for approval, the man perked up and kept going. If you're not accustomed to being around men, then why not use this as an opportunity to get familiar? Not a half bad idea if I do say so myself. And I think we get along quite well. Besides, I'm a minstrel. Spend some time with me and I'll write you all the songs you could possibly want. Get away from me. Ah, you really do have the most striking eyes. Makes me want to keep them all for myself. With a muse like that, I could write the most incredible songs you've ever heard. I said get back, you creep. Huh? That's odd. That one's never failed me. The man brought his face just inches from mine and peered into my eyes. I could feel his hot wine-stench breath against my cheeks. He gave me the chills. I couldn't understand why this was happening to me. Panic and confusion had my heart racing. Go try your luck with someone else. I'm not interested. You will be soon enough, darling. You've simply never known a man's touch. He drew closer. He was already practically on top of me, but still he closed in. Closer and closer. The world faded out. I couldn't see anything. I could feel his rising body heat so near it made me nauseous. My eyes flung open, but there was nothing there. I could only feel. I couldn't move. My body wouldn't budge. In my mind, I kicked the man away, pulled my fist back and slammed it into his jaw. Again and again and again until his face was unrecognizable. Again and again and again and again, I beat him. But reality would have none of that. Michelle! Hey, what do you think you're doing? 3 seconds, 10 seconds, longer? I had no idea how much time I had lost, but the next thing I knew, Georges had the man by the collar. I fell back against the wall, staring absentmindedly as the two struggled. They traded blows and they traded insults. Before long, they had drawn a crowd. While they went at it, I distractedly drifted away, and I only had one place to go. Oh, that really sucks. I feel so bad for her. I didn't even bother to light a candle. I just stared into the darkness. My heartbeat was maddeningly loud in my otherwise silent chambers. What had happened? What had he done to me? Why? Why couldn't I do anything? The last thing I wanted to do was cry. Tears would only serve to worsen my humiliation, only magnify how wretched I was, only make me more effete. I bit down on my lip hard. I had no need for that trash on my body. I dug my nails into my arms. I had no need for that trash on my body. All of this, every last bit of it. That was why I was the way I was. I didn't know how to put it into words. I didn't know how to express this boundless frustration within me. But after enough wordless groaning, a single word slipped from my lips, and it felt incredibly right. God damn it! I knew good and well a girl should not be using such words. Didier and Georges would have gotten an earful from mother or father if they were caught saying that. Regardless. God damn it! It was the most fitting word I could come up with to represent even the smallest bit of my anger and loathing. I knew all I was doing was shifting the blame. That all it would accomplish was making me look pitiful. But I would take that over crying like a girl any day. I let loose a sigh that I was halfway to being a scream, then started clawing wildly at my hair. I wanted to yank out every last damn strand of it. Oh man, she is violated, man, that's why. She feels dirtied. And it sucks because, I didn't want it. I didn't want any of it. Any of this body. But in that case, what did I want from my body? Michelle. May I come in, Michelle? It was George's voice, slightly muffled through the door. The man who had invited those people into this house. I'd be lying if I said I didn't hold that against him. Michelle. But at the same time, he had also come to my rescue. Besides, I hated myself the most. I despised myself for being so helpless. I'm sorry, Michelle. I didn't mean to hurt you. It's not locked. After a few moments of silence, Georgia stepped into my room. Your hair's a mess, Michelle. My God, you're bleeding. That was when I first noticed the stinging sensation in my lower lip. A metallic taste spread through my mouth. I had been biting it much harder than I realized, and there was a lot more blood than I expected. A trail of it was running down my chin seconds from spilling onto my clothes when George just wiped it away. I'm really sorry, Michelle. He can be a real ass when he drinks. And he's a bit of a womanizer at that. I never expected he'd try to go after you, though. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. But, there's a chance he may have, genuinely taken a liking to you. That just makes it worse. Sorry. You're right. You want to be with a man you like, I understand. He ran his hands through my hair as if trying to calm me down, at the same time cleaning up the mess I had made of it. It made me feel like I was some kind of plaything. The joke of a doll. I don't want to be with anyone. I would never ever be comfortable with a man putting his hands on me like that. However, I'm sure you'll find someone eventually, Michelle. Someone that feels right for you. I feel kind of awful for introducing you to him, but there are plenty of men in the world. You might not be interested now, but that'll change soon. It's part of growing up. You'd be best off forgetting today ever happened. I was dead certain, but apparently that wasn't enough to convince him. The very idea that I might one day meet a man who I wanted to touch made my wow. The very idea that I might one day meet a man who I wanted to touch me made my skin crawl. Can't read today. Why? Why did I feel like this? Was I just not interested in men? No, if that were the case, I wouldn't admire my brother's bodies. I didn't have an aversion to men. In fact, I enjoyed spending time with my brothers far more than indulging my mother and her woman's world. What I couldn't stand was the particular look men would sometimes give me. But why? Why did I not like that? I had no answers. My thoughts were only going in circles. Are you okay, Michelle? He peered down at me, his face twisted in concern. But I couldn't answer him. How was I supposed to articulate this? My anger, my frustration, my irritation, my fear? I had no confidence he would understand. Georges, how's Michelle? Amy's voice came from the doorway. Inexplicably, I felt like someone had stuck their hand in my chest and was now squeezing my heart. Like I had just been caught in a compromising situation by the last person I wanted to see me. Oh, yeah, she's doing good, aren't you? Yes, I'm fine. Glad to hear it. I was clearly lying, not even looking him in the eyes when I'd said that, but that seemed to have gone over George's head. Amy, on the other hand, you don't look fine at all, she said, a hint of pain in her voice, and then entered the room. George's father was asking for you. He says it's time to bring the gathering to a close. You should get going. I'll stay here with her. Oh, is he? Alright then. Sounds good. Once the sound of George's footsteps had faded into nothing, Amy took a seat beside me and without warning wrapped her arms around my shoulders. It's much better to talk to another girl at times like this. My heart leaped into my throat, but beyond the shock I also found myself welcoming the warmth. It was pleasant, unlike the man's. That must have been terrifying, but don't worry, you're safe now. It wasn't really, no. No need to pretend, sweetie. If a man had me pinned against a wall, I'd be scared too. I mean it. I wasn't scared. I'm just disappointed in myself. Alright, I believe you. You're a strong girl, Michelle. There aren't many who wouldn't have been scared. I'll be sure to give Georges a stern talking to about his chosen friends. Something I learned today is that he's somewhat of a pushover. You're a lot more tenacious than I thought. As a woman in this world, you have to be. And if you're not, well, you'll figure it out soon enough, Michelle. Of course, even as strong as you are, I'm sure it will be difficult to forget what happened to you today. Georges had told me to forget it as soon as possible, and Amy that I wouldn't be able to. Was it the difference in their individual perspectives, or was it the difference between the way men and women thought? I wasn't sure. As my head rested against her breast, a bit of my frustration slipped out. I couldn't move my arms at all. He didn't even seem all that strong. I couldn't believe that I was really so weak. That's just the way of the world, Michelle. Men are physically stronger than women, so you'll almost never overpower one. You're not any weaker than a normal girl. Don't blame yourself. Though it wasn't the consolation I'd hoped for, her words still filled me with warmth. I exploited my own weakness to hear more of that soothing voice. And I alone knew how foolish I was in doing so. Amy frequently visited my chambers. I didn't know if it was at Mother's request or her own volition, but I prayed it was the latter. She was a very touchy-feely person, and she seemed to have a particular fondness for playing with my hair. Whenever her voice danced its way into my ears, it would wreak havoc inside me. Being enveloped in her scent day after day stoked the fire growing within me. I did my best to remain as straight-faced as possible because the last thing I wanted was her catching on. I understood that the things I was feeling were untoward, to say the least. Your hair is so utterly enchanting. I've never seen hair so white before. I think having color is much prettier. Oh, well, Georgia says white is the most difficult color to make with paint. There's no greater challenge than capturing the beauty of true white. Living with such a splendid example of the color must have given him a very high standard of quality. Say, Michelle, maybe you could tell me about yourself today. I would love to get to know you better. Tell you about myself? Yeah, we could become even better friends if we found some mutual interest. I enjoy playing chess, and I consider myself quite good. Oh my, chess? I've never played. You're such a bright girl, Michelle. Would you like to try? I could teach you. I appreciate the offer, but I think I'll pass. I doubt I would be any good. Oh, okay. What else is there? Say, your favorite kind of flower, fragrance, color, gemstone, are there any embroidery patterns you're particularly skilled at? I don't have any favorites, no. And I'm not especially good with a needle either. No? Do you have shaky hands then? I wouldn't say that, no. I'm fairly good with a knife, I think. A knife? Oh, like a kitchen knife. No, a sculpting knife. Sculpting? She finds that strange. Is that really so strange? It is a bit unusual, I'd say. But Georges does it all the time. His room is practically made of wood chips and charcoal and paint. Georges is an artist. And a man. There's nothing unusual about him doing some sculpting. Why is it okay for him but not me? Does being a girl really make that much of a difference? Well, why don't we practice embroidery together, Michelle? I get the feeling you spend too much time with your brothers. But now you have me. I'm sure it won't be long before you appreciate how much fun cooking and needlework can be. She sounds just like Mother. And she gives the same reason too. Because I'm a girl. But that's not an explanation. It's a vague generalization. That said, if I agree, I can spend more time with her. Okay. Wonderful. We'll come up with beautiful designs together. And when you've made something you're proud of, you can give it to a boy who catches your eye. Or, if you prefer, you could give it to your father or brother. I would like Georges to have what I make, though. Oh, I've been wondering, did you and Georges meet at the royal court? Oh heavens, no. I've never been to the court. One day my father told me I was getting married. And the next day is when we first met. It happened that quickly? What, are you worried about me, Michelle? Don't worry, I'm not displeased with the arrangement. In fact, I'm quite happy with it. Aristocratic marriages are almost always sudden. And as a woman, you get used to being a piece in their games. But Georges, he's different. He's a gentleman. A gentleman? Him? You sound surprised. I believe hedonism suits him better. Oh, I quite disagree. I have complete faith he'll do good by me. I couldn't fathom where she found such confidence in him, especially a man she had only just met. How could she trust him at all? She was nothing but a pawn and she knew it, so maybe she was simply putting on an act. I had trouble believing her smile was anything but genuine, though. One day you'll meet the right man for you, Michelle, and he won't be a drunk like the guy from earlier. He'll be a kind, hard-working, respectable man. I would rather not find anyone. I suppose this is all still too soon for you, huh? Say, how old are you, Michelle? 14. Oh wow, I assumed you were younger. Do I really look that young? No hard feelings. You're just like a tiny little doll, so small and slender. And look, not one bit of meat up here at all. Hey! She playfully grabbed me from behind and started prodding at my chest. As her delicate fingers slid across my skin, I found myself gripped by very indecent urges. Every heavy thump of my heart felt sinful. She couldn't know. I couldn't let her. Everything I had been fighting to keep down came hurling to the surface. "You're so cold, you know that?" She was touching me like it was nothing, caressing my hair. Was she this intimate with George's? Or was it because I was a younger girl that she was so keen on putting her hands all over me? Before I understood what I was feeling, my body acted. It was pure, unfiltered impulse. In my attempt to escape from her grip, I twisted around only to find my face inches from Amy's. Slowly gravitating closer, I pressed my lips against the corner of her mouth. Amy sat there flabbergasted. I was equally aghast. I'm sorry. As I frantically put some distance between us, I'm sure my face was red as an apple, though I didn't know it at the time. Well, that was certainly unexpected. I'm sorry, did I make you uncomfortable touching you so much? Amy was smiling, though it looked forced. No, not at all. Then I must have startled you. I'm sorry, if I let you go sooner, we could have avoided this accident. What do you mean, accident? A kiss on the lips is... It wasn't an accident. It wasn't, Amy. I seem to have confused you somewhat, Michelle. What? I know I can be very touchy-feely with you, and you took that to mean you should do the same. No. You can't do that again, alright? If you want to kiss your friends, you do it on the cheek. Save the lips for the man you love. I should get going then. George starts getting cranky if I don't give him enough attention. Hold on, Amy! So long, Michelle. She wouldn't hear me out. Once Amy had fled my chambers, that was when I finally comprehended my own emotions. That she had stolen my heart. But Amy was George's fiancée. No, that wasn't the problem. My body, was not meant for her love. I woke in the middle of the night to pain in my joints. Not enough exercise, I guess. I tried bending and stretching my arms and legs, but it did nothing. So after pondering on it for a bit, I decided to go for a late night walk to distract myself. As I approached the corridor adjacent to the courtyard, I heard a woman's voice. I'm still concerned about staying here, Amy's voice. Doing my best to remain perfectly quiet, I pressed myself up against the wall by the window and listened in on their conversation. I knew it was improper to eavesdrop, but the sound of her voice had me frozen in place. It's Michelle. I'm afraid I confused her. A tiny jolt ran down my spine, my muscles all tensing up at once, the sound of my name rising to her lips. But not in the way I would have liked. She kissed me. Well, almost, but how could I have guessed she thought of me that way? Mother told me she didn't have any female friends, and asked me to be one for her, which is why. So she had only been coming to see me because Mother had asked her to. I had been afraid of that. Afraid that she wasn't there to be with me. That she had no fondness for me. That my yearning for her was one-sided. She kind of scares me, the way she looks at me. Always watching every little move I make. I'm sensitive to that sort of thing. I can tell what's going through Michelle's mind. I managed to deflect it this time, but I should have never gotten friendly with her. She had seen through me from day one, understood what I was feeling before I had. It's disgusting. Homosexuality. Homosexuality? Did I hear her right? Something inside me crumbled, and with it came an intense sense of wrongness. There it was again, that overpowering discomfort. That fear coursing through my veins. That repulsion. That irritation. That apprehension. What on earth was I? Did I view Amy as a member of the same sex? Were the things I felt homosexual? I heard Amy sigh from beyond the window. Then the man beside her who she was confiding all of this in replied, She's still just a child. That voice. And one with underdeveloped social skills besides. Understand that she's going to do and say some inappropriate things. It's not uncommon for a child to mistake admiration for love. And I didn't know this until recently, but when she gets something into her head, she has a tendency to run with it without thinking. It was not the man I assumed it was. I knew it! Oh, it's the deer! The other day she asked me to let her be a knight. I can't imagine how she thought that would end any other way. Why? It's not very often there are women other than Mother at the estate. I imagine she simply got nervous being around you and something got mixed up in her head. Why was Didier out there with her? I hope that's all it was. Amy, hadn't you told me you thought Georges was a gentleman? So what were you doing, getting so friendly with Didier? And Didier, weren't you my ally? Or was that all an act like her? You were going to be a knight, so why were you out here with your brother's fiancée? I'm glad to have you here, so I hope you can figure something out to make it work. I'll do what I can, and I'm kind of reluctant to say this to you, but something has to change. As it is, she kind of grosses me out. Poor Michelle. She grosses me out. So, I was some kind of sick, disgusting creature? All I had done was show feelings for her. It couldn't be Georges or Didier. The needles piercing me expanded, both in size and number. Soon, I was being skewered by a dozen of them, and the heated sighs rising from the courtyard only served to make the pain worse. All I could do was cover my ears and run. Why? Alright guys, I'm going to have to end the video here for today. Thank you all for watching. When we come back, we'll continue on with Michelle's story.